The sound of the slap echoed through the living room so loudly that even the laughter from the backyard barbecue came to an instant stop. My head turned from the force, my glasses slipped onto the floor, and for a few seconds I couldn't even breathe. Every face stared at me in stunned silence. My own son stood frozen, unable to move, while the woman he had promised to love forever looked at me with cold eyes and held out her hand, demanding the keys to the home my late husband and I had built with 40 years of sacrifice. At that heartbreaking moment, I realized I wasn't just losing my dignity, I was about to lose everything that had ever mattered to me. Before we continue, if you believe kindness always deserves respect, families should stand together, and every parent deserves love in their old age, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share this story with someone you care about, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring more emotional stories like this to life. My name is Margaret Collins, and I lived in a quiet neighborhood outside Columbus, Ohio. I was 71 years old, widowed for nearly 6 years, and every corner of my little white house carried memories of my husband, Thomas. We had painted every wall together, planted every flower in the garden, and spent decades believing our home would always be the place where our family gathered with love. After Thomas passed away, the silence became unbearable, but I held on because the house reminded me that I had once lived a beautiful life. Our only son, Michael, had always been kind-hearted. He visited often after his father's death, helped mow the lawn, and made sure I never felt forgotten. Everything changed after he married Vanessa. At first she appeared sweet, thoughtful, and respectful. She brought homemade desserts during Sunday dinners and called me Mom with a warm smile. I believed my son had found someone who would make him happy, and that was all I had ever wanted. Slowly, almost too slowly to notice, Vanessa began changing. She criticized everything about my home. The furniture looked old. The kitchen seemed outdated. The neighborhood wasn't prestigious enough. Every visit included another suggestion that sounded less like advice and more like preparation for something I couldn't understand. She often reminded Michael that maintaining 2 homes made no financial sense. I noticed the way she looked around the house, not with appreciation, but as though she were calculating its value. Months passed, and Michael started visiting less frequently. His phone calls became shorter. Whenever I invited them for dinner, Vanessa always found an excuse. I convinced myself they were simply busy building their own lives. Deep inside, however, loneliness had begun replacing hope. One afternoon, Vanessa unexpectedly arrived alone carrying flowers and smiling brighter than ever. She hugged me warmly and spent hours talking about family, forgiveness, and fresh starts. For the first time in months, I believed our relationship was improving. Before leaving, she casually mentioned that Michael had been considering moving into my home so we could all help each other. Although surprised, I politely explained that I cherished my independence and wasn't ready for such a change. Her smile faded for only a second before returning. After that conversation, everything shifted dramatically. My son became distant, almost uncomfortable whenever we spoke. Bills that he had once offered to help me organize suddenly became my responsibility alone. Birthdays felt colder. Holidays felt emptier. I often cried after hanging up the phone, wondering what mistake I had made. Then came Independence Day, when our entire family gathered at my house for the annual barbecue Thomas and I had hosted for decades. Cousins, neighbors, grandchildren, and old friends filled the backyard with laughter. For a few precious hours, I forgot how lonely I had become. As everyone gathered inside for dessert, Vanessa stood up holding a small wrapped gift. She smiled confidently and announced that she wanted to celebrate the future of our family. She handed me the package. Inside was a decorative key holder with the words "New Beginnings" carved into the wood. At first everyone applauded politely. Then Vanessa stretched out her hand and calmly announced that it was time for me to hand over the real house keys because Michael and she would now be taking responsibility for the property. She explained that I was getting older and that they had already started making plans to renovate the house. The room fell completely silent. I felt my heart pounding. Every photograph on the wall suddenly seemed to watch the painful moment unfold. I quietly explained that this was still my home and that no one had discussed such a decision with me. Before I could finish speaking, Vanessa accused me of being selfish, stubborn, and unwilling to think about the family's future. When I refused once more, her face twisted with anger. In front of everyone she stepped forward and slapped me across the face. The room erupted with gasps. My glasses crashed onto the hardwood floor. My knees nearly gave out beneath me. The pain on my cheek disappeared quickly, but the humiliation settled deep inside my soul. For several endless seconds nobody moved. Then something happened that Vanessa never expected. My grandson Noah, only 16 years old, rushed across the room to help me stand. He picked up my glasses with trembling hands while tears filled his eyes. My sister Evelyn wrapped her arms around me. Neighbors who had known Thomas for decades looked at Vanessa with complete disbelief. Only one person remained frozen. My son. The disappointment in his eyes revealed that he finally understood how far things had gone, yet guilt had chained him into silence for far too long. Later that evening, after every guest had left, Michael returned alone. His shoulders were heavy with shame. He admitted that Vanessa had been pressuring him for months to convince me to transfer ownership of the house into both of their names. She believed selling it would allow them to purchase a luxury home in another state. Michael confessed that he had allowed himself to be manipulated because he wanted to avoid conflict, never imagining she would publicly humiliate his own mother. I listened quietly. My heart was broken, but not because of the slap. It was broken because my son had forgotten the sacrifices behind every brick of that little house. Thomas had worked double shifts for years. I had cleaned offices at night while raising Michael during the day. That home wasn't simply real estate. It was our life's work. The following week, I visited an attorney named Richard Bennett. He carefully reviewed every document and helped me establish a living trust that protected the property from anyone attempting to pressure me in the future. He also encouraged me to make decisions based on peace rather than guilt. Meanwhile, Michael separated from Vanessa after realizing that her obsession with wealth had destroyed the very family she claimed to care about. Their marriage soon collapsed under the weight of distrust and selfish ambition. Months later, my home felt peaceful again. Flowers bloomed in Thomas's old garden. Children from the neighborhood still waved as they walked past. My grandson Noah began visiting every Saturday, helping with repairs and listening to stories about his grandfather. Instead of feeling abandoned, I slowly discovered that family is measured by love, not by blood alone. One autumn afternoon, Michael arrived carrying a small wooden bench he had built with his own hands. He placed it beneath the old maple tree where Thomas and I had spent countless evenings watching sunsets together. Tears filled both our eyes as he quietly apologized, not expecting forgiveness but hoping to earn it over time through actions instead of words. Forgiveness did not erase the pain, but it allowed both of us to begin healing. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes parents deserve respect, subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories, and tell us where you're watching from. Special request: before this story ends, please leave a comment below and answer this question: should Michael have spoken up sooner to protect his mother? As I sat on that wooden bench beneath the golden leaves, I realized that a house is never protected by locks or keys. It is protected by the love, respect, and memories shared inside its walls. People may try to take away your possessions, your dignity, or your peace, but they can never steal a lifetime of sacrifice built on kindness and unconditional love. And sometimes, the greatest victory isn't keeping a house, it's discovering who truly belongs in it.